If you don't have goals, you don't have mentoring. You may have coaching, you may have advice, you may have managing, but you don't have mentoring unless you have goals. Hi, this is Liza Fain. I'm the CEO of Center for Mentoring Excellence. I spend my time on the intersection of cultural competency and mentoring, which is a real passion of mine because I see the impact it can make in the workplace. And I'm also the co-author of Bridging Differences for Better Mentoring, a book about bridging differences in mentoring relationships that will be coming out with Barrett Kohler Publishing in January or February of 2020. So let's talk today about goals. I get a lot of questions about goals, about how to set goals, about why goals are so important in mentoring, and what to do with them once you've set them. So let's start with why goals are so important in mentoring. Mentoring really is about mutually defined goals for the mentee's learning and development based on what skills, knowledge, or competencies the mentee wants to develop. If you don't have goals, you don't have mentoring. You may have coaching, you may have advice, you may have managing, but you don't have mentoring unless you have goals. So what's a goal? A goal is a specific and measurable outcome related to something that the mentee wants to learn. And in mentoring, it's something that the mentor and the mentee agree on for the pair, or in maybe a mentoring circle or triad, to focus on during their time together. It sets the topics, helps set the agenda for mentoring, and it becomes really a critical part of how you spend your mentoring time and how you measure success. So there's actually several kinds of goals that you see. The first kind of goal is a starter goal, and that's what we see most often. That might be somebody saying, oh, I want to work on my influencing skills, or I want to become more known in the organization, or I want to get a promotion. But it's not, those are so vague that they are not really measurable, and they're very fuzzy. We call those starter goals. What we're trying to get to are SMART goals, are goals that are specific and measurable and achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So you might have heard SMART that acronym SMART in many different contexts, but that might be something like, by the end of the mentoring time, I want to be able to pass an initiative through my department for implementation in the organization, and I'm going to measure that to determine whether it gets through at the end, as opposed to I want to increase my influencing skills, because influencing skills can mean many different things. Now, a lot of times people get hung up because either they have chosen the wrong goal, or they end up making progress but determine that there's a better way to go, and that's okay. It's perfectly acceptable, in fact, even encouraged, to revisit and redefine your goals along the way in the mentoring process. So don't get too stuck on whether it is the right goal. Sometimes it's better to get started on defining a goal, and that will help you tweak it along the way to determine if it's the right thing. So again, increase my influencing skills might be something that's a starter goal, and then the specific goal that I mentioned of getting an initiative or policy initiative, or maybe a big project, a specific big project through your organization within the mentoring period. That might be a SMART goal. There's a third kind of goal called sleeper goals. And these are goals that come up on your way to achievement of your SMART goal. So for example, if you have a goal around your influencing skills, like the one we mentioned before, you might find that you need to know who the influencers are in your organization. And that organizational or institutional knowledge is fundamental to achieving your SMART goal. We call that a sleeper goal. It was there all along. Your awareness of the importance of that goal and meeting that goal are essential to achieving the other goal. And they just became much more obvious on your way to achievement of that goal. So let's talk about milestones, because so often people don't celebrate or measure their progress until they're all the way there, or they feel that they have been way off track on their goal. And we really encourage encourage mentors and mentees to set milestones for celebration, for measurement, for achievement along the way. So it might be, have I identified the initiative that I want to get past? Have I gotten some buy-in from different key stakeholders within the organization? Those kind of things along the way, so you can stop and pause and celebrate and reflect the achievement that you've had along the way, and then figure out, well, we need to tweak what the ultimate goal is, or are we on the right track? Really important to measure success along the way and set milestones. The other thing that's really important about goals is this idea of accountability. One thing that sets mentoring apart from other relationships in the organization is this idea of a mutual accountability for one another. And when you have a goal, there's always something to check in on, and there's always something to define the next indicated action related to. So it keeps it top of mind, keeps it on the agenda, and it keeps the relationship focused and the partners in the relationship accountable. One of the things I wanted to mention was the horizon, the time horizon in which we should be setting goals. I often get questions about how far out people should be thinking when they think about goal setting. It's an excellent question. And very often people say, should I think about where I want to be 10 years from now or even 5 years from now? And while it's important to be thinking about where you want to be in the long term, it can get very intimidating to think that far out. In fact, even 5 years can be an eternity. It's 2019 as I record this, and I think back 5 years for myself. I was still working in the corporate world. I never would have imagined that I would be working on my own, writing a book with my mother, being a thought leader in a field that I was related, certainly quite related to what I was doing in the diversity and inclusion world, but in which I did not yet have the expertise or the interest that I have now. And so sometimes when we think about goal setting, we want to think about 6 months out or a year out in relation to where we envision ourselves in the long term. So a useful exercise can be to think about, where do I want to be 5 years from now? And if that gets intimidating, where do I want to be 3 years from now? And then backing up, okay, if I want to be there 3 years from now, what needs to happen in the next year? What needs to happen in the next 6 months? What is it that I want to be learning? What is it that I want to be getting better at? What am I already good at that I can expand on? What do I need to be working on to get better at that I'm not yet as proficient in as I want to be? And thinking about those things can be really, really important. When I left the corporate world and joined the entrepreneurial world, it was really quite scary. And there was so much that I didn't know. And there was so much that I didn't know that I didn't know. And so it was really important to start to set goals around what I wanted to learn about, what I wanted to get better at, how to run the back end of a business, how to understand working with clients, how to understand how to grow a business, how to understand about getting the word out about the business, and about thinking about myself as an entrepreneur versus somebody who worked in the corporate world. And yet leveraging the knowledge of my own work in the corporate world and in the legal field and in the not-for-profit world in order to become a better entrepreneur and to serve my clients even better. So goal setting was really important to think about what I knew, what I wanted to know, and certainly what I didn't know, and to figure out how I was going to learn what I didn't know by asking people, by creating a network. And so there were all sorts of goals that I needed to set around that. Who did I need to meet? How could I expand who I knew in a way that was authentic to me and build relationships that were meaningful to me personally and professionally? So one final tip as you think about your 3-year time horizon and starting to set goals is to dream a bit, to set forth lots of different options. Don't get stuck in trying to create the perfect goal. Think about lots of different places to be. Think about lots of different possibilities and work your way back. It's much more helpful and productive to think expansively and then narrow rather than try to pinpoint the exact goal. You will know from working with your mentoring partner whether the goal is something that resonates, and you'll have the opportunity within the course of your mentoring relationship to tweak it if you need to tweak it. So take a few moments and write down the answer to the question, who do I want to be 3 years from now? What do I want to be doing? Where can I see myself? And see what emerges and what goals might start to appear.